you're ready.
Sweet. Yeah, so yesterday was November 11th, 2024. That was Military Edition launch. The 6th edition sold out, all 50 watches in 51 minutes. So that was crazy.
We are still down as the loom.
Woo!
2 minutes.
Oh my God.
Today we're talking about on this American Dreamers episode basically a 10-year anniversary video, because this week, so November 17, is our 10-year anniversary since launching on Kickstarter. And we launched, so Tyler and I posted Vortic Watch Company on Kickstarter.com. The American Artisan Series went live November 17 of 2014. And that was almost exactly 10 years ago. So I'm gonna take you guys on a little trip around Fort Collins, Colorado, and tell the story of best I can remember, the last 10 years of my life and of Vortic Watch Company. The original vision for Vortic, Tyler and I had a bunch of ideas on the golf course back in like 2011. When we were studying engineering is what I was studying, mathematics is what he was studying at Penn State. So that was back in Pennsylvania. We had a bunch of ideas. We kind of considered like what it would look like if we started a watch company. We built the brand. Vortic is what we called it back then. I think we capitalized the T back then in the original brand. It was about some sort of technology we could put on the wrist. We had the idea on the golf course that was basically an adjustable watch that was a more comfortable watch. We filed a patent. We actually have a utility patent on a couple of different ideas around that concept. And not much came from it or through it. When we were studying at Penn State, we won a couple business plan competitions, but the original partnership was 4 of us. We had 4 business partners in Vortic LLC when we were back in Pennsylvania. And then, the band kind of slowly started to fall apart as we all got different jobs when we left school and, wanted to do different things with our lives. And I ended up getting a job here in Fort Collins, technically in Loveland, because I worked for Walmart Logistics out of school. Walmart gave me the choice between Bentonville, Arkansas and Fort Collins, or Loveland, Colorado. And Walmart has a huge distribution center down here. And so that was my corporate job out of school, was with Walmart. And one of my friends at the time, she worked here for Walmart as well. And she said, hey, if you work in Loveland, you should live in Fort Collins. It'll feel just like State College, Pennsylvania, just like Penn State. It's a college town, and that's how I ended up here. And at that time, Tyler really, he had a job in Philadelphia. He didn't love the job. He came out to visit me, and at some point when he was out here visiting me, he was just like, man, Colorado's awesome. I'd love to move here. What do you think about rekindling that watch company idea we had? And that was the reintroduction of Vortic, basically early 2014 when I was moving here. When we rekindled the idea of Vortic, and at that point it was just me and Tyler here in Colorado, the core concept was, let's make a watch that is actually made in USA, like truly American made. And we did a bunch of research, and we stumbled on the history of the great American watch companies, that made pocket watches here 100 years ago. And the brand changed from, this interesting watch company with different technology that we were working on in college to the story of the brand I changed it to was Vortic, like Vortex and TikTok, a beautiful clash of old and new, as we decided to, turn these old pocket watches into wristwatches. Basically, the light bulb moment for us was, we knew that we could make the outside of the watch, the bigger parts of the watch here, and the movements, when we asked anybody, how do we get an American-made movement, they laughed and they were just like, that's not a thing. Movements, the guts of a watch are made in Switzerland, China, or Japan. Like, American movements are not a thing. And they might have been a thing 100 years ago, but they were pocket watches. And so if we took the guts of the pocket watch and upcycled them and made everything else on the outside of the watch in the United States, well, we'd have a 100% American-made watch. And so we called it the American Artisan Series. We put it on Kickstarter. You know, that Kickstarter launch was November 17 of 2014. The first prototypes were 3D printed. We call it version 1. It was like a 2-piece case that cantilevered over itself. At that point, we 3D printed them using a company called X1. And it was basically 3D printed steel that was infiltrated with bronze. They would 3D print the steel in kind of this watch-shaped structure, and then they would pour molten bronze into it. They called it infiltration, and that would make it more of a hardened finished product. And then we made it in 2 pieces, like top and bottom, not the same style as a typical watch. It looked really weird, very different to most people that were into watches, but we were engineers, we're not watchmakers, as I still say today, you know. That's what we put on Kickstarter, and those first prototypes were pocket watches we found in pawn shops. The cases have been scrapped for gold and silver, and so we thought, like, okay, this upcycling thing is kind of interesting and totally possible. We picked an Elgin, a Waltham, and a Hamilton at that time, and so we made the Chicago, the Boston, and the Lancaster, which was kind of cool because I was from Pennsylvania, so I thought the history of Hamilton was interesting at that point. And we put all that on Kickstarter, super glued it all together. I mean, literally used a Harbor Freight drill press to make the first box. Probably almost killed myself with that thing a couple times. And then, you know, took some mediocre pictures of it and called our friend Andy at the time, who was a designer and videographer, photographer, and flew him out from Pennsylvania and said, hey, we want to make a Kickstarter video. And put it all up there November 17, and we had this whole list on our whiteboard in the kitchen here at the Regatta House. And it was goals. It was like, when we get to, you know, $10,000 was the goal on Kickstarter. And when we get to that, you know, then this is going to happen. And $50,000, we're going to do this. And I think at like $250,000, if we raised $250,000 on Kickstarter, we were going to get like a boat or something. We're in Colorado. I don't know what we were going to do with a boat. You know, I was 23. So even $10,000 was a lot of money at that point. And it was our first business. And I think now we kind of know what we're doing, but we definitely did not know what we were doing at that point. So this is nostalgic. I lived here. This was the condo I bought, 3-bed, 2-bath condo that I bought when I moved here to work for Walmart in 2014. I bought it for $178,000, which you can't buy a house for, period, anymore. Got a 4.5% interest rate, which I was told was high at the time. Yeah, I still own it. It's an investment property for me now, but it's been used for collateral for every business loan I've gotten since. Honestly, buying this house was probably one of the smartest things I did as a 23-year-old. And, you know, leveraging it to get business capital over the years has, you know, saved the company and helped the company many, many times. So this is the garage where we filmed the Kickstarter video back in 2014. It was November, so it was freezing. We had a little space heater. We had a blanket covering the space heater so that the space heater wouldn't make too much noise for the camera and the audio. It was a total mess. We had our Harbor Freight drill press behind us that we used to make the wooden boxes. And then, you know, in the basement of this house, the 3rd bedroom is where Tyler had his whole setup. I mean, he built the first probably 100 watches here, maybe 50 watches. All the prototypes were made here. Yeah, there was super glue and Loctite all over the place. We did not know what we were doing, but that's kind of the point of Kickstarter, and that's why we put it out there. And we said, hey, we're trying to make watches in America. We're here in Fort Collins, Colorado, and we want to do something different. We're going to take this old pocket watch, turn it into a wristwatch, and you random humans on the internet, if you like this idea, you can buy one for, at that time, like $600 to $700. which was a mistake. It cost us more to make those watches than we charged in the beginning. But yeah, that was Kickstarter, and long story short, those 30 days on Kickstarter, in late 2014, we raised about $41,000. The goal was 10,000. We thought 10 was a lot of money at that time. We thought 40,000 was plenty to start a business. Boy, were we wrong. But it proved the market. It proved that people liked it. And we had a bunch of random people we never met pledge to buy this product if we brought it to life. And that's how Vortic Watch Company started. Yeah, so our first office space when we moved out of the Regatta House, well, we were still living in the house, but you know, when we actually had a true office, was here at the Rocky Mountain Innosphere, just north of Old Town Fort Collins. And we had 300 square feet just in the far corner over there. It was literally a supply closet that they turned into an office space for us. They turned into an office space for us and just made it work. You know, I didn't even think there was a window. It was in that far corner down there. And at a certain point, you know, we outgrew that really fast. That was when we were making all the walnut boxes, and Tyler was, you know, cutting the leather for those boxes and assembling the watches all right here. And ran out of space there, and we got a second office. We were doing the workshop in the corner, and then we had this like 3 windows down. It was like another 300 square feet. And it was basically just an office with a couple of desks in it, and that's where we, you know, got our work done, did all the admin stuff for the company. God, this is weird. No one's in here. It's tiny. There's 3 of us in here. I hope there's not like some national secrets being done in that room. Look at that. There was no window. There was a little window in the door over there. That was it. And then, yeah, so that was the space we had. And then we still had that. That's where we were actually like making stuff. And there was one of these offices, I can't remember which one, but it was just a small office space. We had 2 or 3 desks in it and upgraded to a window. And at this point, I think it was this one. So we had the window, we had a whiteboard, a couple of desks. So I was still working for Walmart at the time. I was at work that day, and Tyler got this piece of certified mail and was like, this is weird. And it was a cease and desist from the Swatch Group. And that was, I think, July of 2015, about a week or 2 before we shipped the first watch to any customer, one of our first Kickstarter customers. We got the cease and desist, and that was the Hamilton v. Vortic lawsuit, or the beginning of it. And I remember driving here from work that day. You know, it's probably 6 o'clock at night. We're looking at this thing, we're reading the cease and desist, and we're like, huh, this might be weird. So in 2016, we moved over here to Jessup Farm. And so many people across the last 10 years have said like, oh yeah, you guys were at Jessup Farm. You had that little shop next to Bindle Coffee. Yeah, we had this. This was our workshop. It's like 500 square feet. This was about a year. I think we only lasted about 10 months in the space before we fully outgrew it. But we just thought it was the coolest thing. This was like the tractor, you know, shed of the farm. And Jessup Farm here in Fort Collins was redeveloped by the Campana family. And Gino, I met him through a friend, Gino Campana, when I approached him to get the lease for this building. First of all, he said like, oh, you're making watches, like that's really cool. No one's ever said that. I sent him the whole business plan and all that. And I asked for a 3-year lease. And he was just like, there's no way, like you're gonna outgrow this in 12 months at best. So he only let me sign a 12-month lease. And then to his credit, yeah, we lasted about 10 months until we totally outgrew it. But yeah, in 500 square feet, we had myself, we had Andy, our designer, Tyler. Tyler was making all the watches at that point. We had our laser engraver in here. So we were laser engraving stuff for the whole neighborhood, all these different, you know, buildings. We were like the maker space for this whole area. And we had this really cool sign on both sides that said Vortic Watch Company. And yeah, tons and tons of people here locally. They were just like, oh yeah, I saw you guys at Jessup Farm. That's the coolest thing. So besides drinking a lot of Bindle coffee and hanging out at the Jessup Farm brewery over here, after work. My, I think, second fondest memory of Jessup Farm is how when we first moved into this space, it was Christmas time of, I guess, 2015 at that point. And, you know, Gino, who leased us the space, he's got this big Italian family, and he invited us, me and Tyler, for Christmas dinner. Because we just moved here recently, we didn't know anyone, we were both single, we didn't have any friends or family, we couldn't afford to go back to Pennsylvania to see our family for the holidays. And he invited us over for dinner, and he was such a kind person, best landlord, you know, I've ever had, and you know, had just such a wonderful time with his family, got to meet the whole family, and this is what they do, and this is part of what they've built. And so, yeah, it's still an honor to call Gino a friend. I hope he gets to see this. And I hope he comes over and admires all this, you know, from time to time. That was my second fondest memory. I would say my first fondest memory of Jessup Farm is sitting actually right here. I think we were sitting outside at the brewery for a marketing meeting. And my wife now, at that time, the marketing manager for Jessup Farm, Lindsay, she was hosting a meeting for all the business owners in this neighborhood, and she was the marketing manager, worked for Gino. I don't remember anything about any of those marketing meetings. I went to those meetings for Lindsay. And God, I just fell so in love with her. We had a meeting here, just her and I in Bindle, where she was giving me a quote on social media services for Vortic. I fell more in love. I just spent the whole time trying to figure out how I could try to, you know, break her up with her boyfriend at the time. She gave me a little hint at the end of that meeting that it wasn't going so hot. I don't remember why she said that. Maybe she kind of saw it in my eyes. And then Tyler and I had a business meeting with her at Jack's Fish House downtown Fort Collins. And I think about an hour into that meeting, Tyler realized he hadn't said a single word. It wasn't really a meeting. It was a date between me and Lindsay. And he politely excused himself, texted me when he was leaving and said, good luck. And that meeting definitely turned into a date, and the rest is history. We have 2 kids and a house, lived in this neighborhood for years with Lindsay. That's how I met my beautiful wife, and gosh, yeah, so many memories of just hanging out in this space. So now we're headed over to 517 North Link Lane. You know, we only lasted about 10 months or so in Jessup Farm, and we just ran out of space, and, you know, started making some stuff ourselves and started making some parts in-house. At that time, we had a guy, Jeff from Mad Machining down in Loveland. He was making a lot of the case parts, and, you know, at that point we were 3D printing titanium for the case and then doing some post-processing on CNC machines. And he was just like, guys, for the same amount you're paying me, you could just buy your own CNC machine, and like, you just need a little more space and you need some good electricity. And you could just make all these yourselves, and you don't need me. And so thank you to Jeff for saying that. That's really what kicked us off, trying to figure it out ourselves. We needed more space, and we found this space, just an open warehouse, 2,000 square feet up here north of town on Link Lane. This is up by, if you're in Fort Collins or know the area, it's up by the old airport, the original Fort Collins airport years and years ago. Also near the Hunt Club, if you've been here that long and know what I mean. But up this way, it's just industrial space. There's a lot of just open warehouses. A lot of really cool things are made up here that people don't even know about. Guy next door, you know, they run Classic Door, and they were making our wooden boxes at the time. They were cutting all the wood for us just 50 yards away. And yeah, we got this space, 2,000 square feet. We built a clean room in it to assemble the watches. We built a little photo studio. We had a little front office area. Not really retail. We're kind of up out of the way here. But we also built a machine shop and a machine room to keep the dust out of the rest of the building. And we put our mini mill. We got a Haas mini mill. It's like a $50,000, $60,000 machine. I think we paid $1,200 a month for it. And Jeff was right. I mean, that was less than we were paying him to do all the post-processing on our parts. And Tyler taught himself how to use the machine on YouTube. And the rest is history. That was our first machine. It's addicting. Once you get one CNC machine and you know how to use it, you might as well get another one and another one and another one. And gosh, yeah, it was fun learning about all that stuff. Yeah, so we moved here in 2017, and we had this really cool railroad sign over at Jessup Farm, and we put it on the side of the building up here. You can kind of still see the holes and like a little bit of the outline on the side of the building. I'm not sure if that was our responsibility to fix that, but we also put in that vent. So there's a bunch of ventilation and other things like the electricity, the transformer here that we had to add. At first we just had one machine, but by the time, we moved here in 2017, by the time we moved to our current location in 2022, we had 5 machines. And so, yeah, we maxed out the electrical capacity of the building real quick. It was early 2017 that we moved over here. My first son, Sawyer, was born June 10 of 2017. And I remember distinctly sitting in this parking lot, basically contemplating life, like I wasn't sure I was ready to be a father. I was at that time still very young, and I was about to not make payroll. And I had a little car, like a little sedan at the time, and I owned it outright. And so I sold that car, turned it in for a lease on a Jeep, which was actually cheaper. I paid a few $100s a month for a brand new Jeep at the time, which is a much more like dad appropriate car. I couldn't put car seats in my little car. And I cashed out enough from selling my car and then switching to a lease to be able to make payroll. And that was, I think, spring of 2017. And at that time we were having trouble because we, were just starting the lawsuit. I think it was July of 2017 when the lawsuit really took off and it became like an official federal lawsuit. And we were just spooling up the watch builder at that time, and there was a lot of things going on. We were trying to scale and grow and buy another machine. And I got a little over my skis financially. But yeah, selling my car helped pay the bills. So in early 2019, we expanded the facility. We filled the whole space of Unit A here, all 2,000 square feet. We had 3 machines at that point, and we were making almost all of the Vortic case in-house at that point. And like I said, Tyler taught himself how to use all those CNC machines on YouTube. We got a bunch of help from, just people across the way here. They had some CNC machines over in this building. And they came over and helped us learn how to use the lathe, especially when we got that. That was a whole new piece of equipment. And then I remember vividly, I went to New York City for a meeting with the big law firm I hired to try to protect us from the lawsuit. And Hamilton and Swatch just totally no-showed a meeting with a federal judge, which they ended up getting a slap on the wrist for, but it was scary because when I left the meeting, basically the attorney said, well, clearly they don't care. Clearly they have unlimited funds. We need to get paid. They sent me a huge bill. And the attorney said, listen, you're probably gonna lose. So we're not really sure, we can't keep working for free. And the whole plane ride home and the whole drive from Denver Airport up to here, I was trying to figure out what to do. And like I said, this is spring 2019. I was expecting my second son, my youngest, Wesley. He was born in May of 2019. And I pull into the shop. At that point, the attorneys, Tyler, my business partner, most of my family, all my friends, they were all pushing me and making me lean towards giving up and doing something else. And the whole time I just wrote everybody off because I said, I'm the only one close enough to have all the details and know we can win, we can totally do this. But I sat right here in the parking lot and I Googled best Colorado bankruptcy attorney. And that's how I got to Rob Lance. And that's how everything changed. And at that point, after I talked to Rob in Denver, and I found someone who believed and someone who knew I was being bullied by this corporation and who wanted to help and who worked for free for like a year. I had hope again, and I went from sitting in the car contemplating what personal and business bankruptcy looked like to, you know, the next day walking into the building saying, let's try something different. We gotta change. We gotta do something else. And that's the day we learned about the Veterans Watchmaker Initiative, and the week that we made the plan to launch the military edition that November 11th of 2019. So November 11th, 2019, we launched the military edition for the first time. We charged $5,000 a watch, the most we've ever charged for anything. Scary proposition, just seeing if it worked, seeing if people liked it. We sold 50 watches almost right away, raised just $250,000, you know, from that product launch, and saved the company. You know, at that point we had over $100,000 in legal debt. It was the first year we crossed $1 million in total sales, I think. And we were able to invest that money into basically protecting ourselves from, you know, that big thing that happened in 2020 that we didn't know was coming, but we needed a nest egg for. And between that and the lawsuit, you know, the military edition literally saved the company and protected my American dream. So yeah, when we were moving from, you know, Link Lane, we had 4,000 square feet there. We wanted to move closer to downtown. We wanted to have some sort of retail space, something that felt a little more welcoming for customers to come. And we found this building. It was a co-working space, and so 2020 just, you know, wiped out the whole co-working industry. And this building was vacant. It's 8,500 square feet, 324 Jefferson Street here. The original building on the right side, that is the stone building over here. It was from 1949, if I remember correctly. And then the left side, what is now the machine shop, all the metal building over there, that was an add-on, I think, in the 80s. And, you know, it was just perfect. On the right side of the building, you can see all those little circles on the roof. Those are sun tubes. And so they're grabbing all the sunlight from above and just pouring that into what is now our clean room. And really, when we saw the clean room and we realized, like, okay, if we wipe out all these little offices from the co-working space and make one giant room, it'll just be filled with natural light. And that'll be so amazing for our watchmakers. So that's what really sold us on this building when Tyler and I toured it for the first time. Plus now we have a little retail area in the front, we have parking, and we are standing in the center of Old Town Fort Collins. You know, this is just the perfect spot to have a business, and we absolutely love it here. So we did a ton of renovations to the building. We actually documented that on the first, I don't know, 10 episodes of what we used to call Custer and Wolf Building a Watch Company. And you can kind of see us renovating the building and making some of those decisions. And then in 2022, 2023, we basically tried to grow Vortic. You know, making a Vortic watch, a pocket watch turning into a wristwatch, is really difficult. But we said, okay, let's try to make 500, right? Like, how do we scale this business? And we just hit a top end. You know, there's very hard to do it. We couldn't make enough, and it was just a square peg round hole scenario where at a certain point we were like, okay, well, you know, Vortic is such a cool business. Let's just keep it cool, and let's keep it awesome and make 300 to maybe 400 watches a year and keep it there. And then we had the idea for Colorado Watch Company in order to scale. And with Colorado Watch Company, and now we have the machines, we have the people, we have the space, we can make thousands of watches in America and build them in Colorado. And that's where the idea for Colorado Watch Company was born. We put that concept on Kickstarter in late 2023. And thanks to you guys watching this video and our customers, I mean, that just took off. And now we're, you know, running 2 companies. And then early 2024, Tyler came to me and he said, hey, you know, Colorado Watch Company is where it's at. Like, we need to scale, we need to make things using modern movements, we need a scalable business. It's the only thing that's sustainable. And he said, I think we should, and I feel really strongly about this, stop making Vortic watches. and stop turning pocket watches into wristwatches. I know it's hard, but it's very difficult to do it. And I just don't think we should do that anymore. I think we should go all in on Colorado Watch Company. And that started a series of very difficult conversations between myself and Tyler that ended with him moving back to Pennsylvania here later this year. He's in the process of moving right now. And Tyler's going to do something else with his life. And he's on his way back to PA to still make stuff. He's taking one of the machines and he's going to make, things out of metal, which is, his skill set, which is awesome. And I am, here running now Vortic Watch Company and Colorado Watch Company. And this is the end of a 10-year chapter, a 10-year business partnership that I had with Tyler. And I'm really grateful for Tyler for helping me and us get to this point, finding this building, doing the renovations, getting all these machines, helping me find these amazing people. And I can be very grateful to you, our customers, for also buying watches and helping us stay here and get to the point where this right here, this building, this is the home of American watch manufacturing, and we're making watches right here in Fort Collins, Colorado. So thank you to everyone watching this video. That's our 10-year journey, and it's been a journey.